Event freelancers, welcome to your new community, connecting you to your next project. Get connected. Sign up now. It's free.
Our next presenter runs Trapeze Media, a social media consultancy that works with both brands and freelancers to help them navigate the world of social media. She's going to take us through the various platforms and how you can use them to their best advantage, and gives you some top tips to take away. There will be an opportunity for question and answers towards the end of the session, so feel free to ask them as we go through. Welcome, Kitty.
Okay, so we're going to talk about how to use social media to get noticed. So I am a digital marketing person and have had Trapeze Media for the last 4 years. I've worked in digital marketing for around 12 years, and within Trapeze Media, we work with a host of different clients, from Decca Records to Caprice Holdings within hospitality. I managed the social media campaign for Pathé Films Suffragette with Kerry Mulligan and Meryl Streep. And we are working with all these brands within Trapeze Media, or have done, including the Future Strategy Club that we'll talk about later, but as a freelancer, they're an excellent agency, a co-agency to be aware of. So I get asked a lot, should I be promoting myself on social media? My answer is yes. It costs nothing to promote yourself on social media. You have complete creative freedom to do whatever you want, say whatever you want, have ownership of the message that you're putting out there. And all eyes are on social right now. Everybody's going to be talking about the current climate. And I was really glad to have heard Samantha and Kim talking on the last panel, because I completely agree with what they were saying. Social media is a really, really powerful place at the moment, especially for freelancers. The sooner and the more comfortable you get with managing your socials, the better, because that is where everybody's looking, not just from a employee to employer perspective, but on every single avenue, including sales. So it's great to kind of get as comfortable as you can. And I really advise you to consider and think about social media as a tool. There are some challenges that people find with social, where on a social scale, on a social perspective, as in communicating with friends, looking at what people are posting politically, looking at kind of advertising that you get from, you can be very, very deflective and dismissive of it from that perspective. If you try and rethink your mind in looking at social media as a tool to benefit you, then the whole thing can become a lot more manageable. You can feel like you have a lot more control over it. So that's a good piece of advice that I would recommend in sort of mindset. So why should you continue to think about social media for yourself? You need to consider your objectives. To answer the question why, have a clear idea on your objectives. That's the why that you want to be posting out there. What do you want to achieve? Are you looking to raise your profile, put out work, demonstrate the kind of successes that you've been having? Or is it ultimately to have conversations, to make connections, to get employment, more work, etc.? Who do you want to target? You're already, I imagine, quite contained within an events space, but who within that event space do you want to talk to? The more focused you can be, the easier the space becomes. If you think of social media and all of its different avenues it can take you down, the whole thing becomes quite overwhelming. Overwhelming is a word that kind of comes up quite a lot. And so I recommend to people to try and focus in as much as possible. And it can feel quite hard to do that initially, but it helps you get off the starting blocks and to get on a roll. If you don't take to it naturally, then consider what the essentials are to achieving your ultimate goal and hone in on what you need to do to achieve that. And focus on the key channels that work for you. There are a heck of a lot of channels in the landscape at the moment. Got Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, Vimeo, Reddit, LinkedIn, Flickr, Telegram, Facebook, etc., etc. Again, overwhelming. So concentrate on just a few, whichever ones you feel more comfortable working with, and don't worry about the rest for now until you've gotten off into that role. So this video will demonstrate or shows you might want to make this bigger. Actually, I'm going to make mine a bit bigger. So here, this is from 11 years ago, 2009. We've got the race and the rise of all the platforms. We've got Qzone and Weibo, who are Chinese microblogging sites and social networkers. You might see them. Keep your eyes on Instagram and LinkedIn. In 2012, they split apart from each other. Google Plus, you can see, is zoomed in for a hot second in 2012, but we all know what happened to that. LinkedIn falls behind in numbers, but actually in real life, usability and impact of potential for freelancers has improved hugely since it was bought by Microsoft in 2016. So what's interesting about the kind of landscape that we get to at this point, where we're coming up into where we are now, look at TikTok there. That was, it comes in, zooms in up there, like makes everybody eat its dust. And if this was to carry over to 2020, that would be way up. This is to 2019. But if we look at the landscape here, we've got Facebook and Instagram, big monies, big numbers. But we all know that it's quite challenging to be seen within those channels without ad budget. If we think about LinkedIn, it's all the way at the bottom in terms of numbers, but the impact that you can have, the conversations, the kind of real meaningful engagement since Microsoft bought it has been absolutely phenomenal. So my next recommendation, just post. Write and schedule all content in advance. The worst thing is to be sitting there on your phone when you want to be posting and be absolutely paralyzed by fear of what you're going to post. Is it the right thing? If you schedule all your content in advance, you don't need to consider any of that. It's all written up, ready. You can get it done very efficiently as well. It takes away time. I recommend deciding on 3 key content pillars. And actually, this might be a good 3 to think about: your portfolio, your ideal clients, and your peers, colleagues, influencers. This will all feed into that monthly content strategy that you're writing. Also, these things are quite difficult to think of on the day. Anything additional is amazing. The more live and alive your social content is, the better. But this just saves time, saves stress, and makes everything a hell of a lot easier. Try not to overthink it, and be bold, brave, and authentic. So when you see you've gone off track and stop posting, get back on the horse and create. So this is one of the most common things that happen. After this event, you might be really hyped and pumped to get back out social and posting on your socials, full of inspiration and ideas, and you get a couple of weeks content written up and posted, and then it drops off a cliff. The things that really help me when I need to keep going is working with other people to get me back on the horse, have a little call, have an accountability group. Perhaps when you go back into your networking tables after this session, see if anybody wants to make up a WhatsApp group to just hold each other accountable, talk about what's going on in your field, in your industry, and just write a little post about what you've talked about that day. Or holding each other accountable is massively beneficial. And helps you get back on track. But it does take a lot of discipline and time. So it is hard. As much as we know it's hard. So give yourself a break, turn the pressure dial down a bit. So authentic content gets mentioned a lot. And I think as a creator as you are content creators managing your own social media channels, how do you put authentic content out onto your page? What does this actually mean in a real tangible way? And how do you do this? These are some examples of some authentic content. So I'm not asking you to film yourself crying. This is a quite an out there, very bold, amazing thing that Jen Gotch, founder of Bando, did. And from this, she launched a mental health awareness campaign, which was I Cry at Work Day, off the back of this. And the post was just incredible because it was so real and it was happening right then. I'm not asking you to do this, but something that happens in your day, you know, it may seem that you may think nobody cares about this, but actually it brings out the humanity of you and connects people to who you are. The authenticity doesn't need to come from emotion either. The authenticity can come from a truth of your being, of your opinion, of something that you want to say. This is the Future Strategy Club, who, again, this is a very bold, authentic statement, and it's done with humor in a creative way. But this is a little graphic they've made up from throwing milkshake at a fascist, which is pretty bold, but it gets across their authentic self, which alienates some people, but really speaks to others. So if there's something in you that's really, really strong and true to your character and true to what you believe in, then get it out there if you have an opinion about something. The reason why opinionated stuff works is it really does connect you with your group of people that are interested in the way that you think, which in turn solidifies these relationships, which social media is all about relationship building. So the other example I've got, which is a little more easy to potentially put into practice, is around testimonials or feedback. So this is an example from one of our accounts, which is the Indie. And this is a review of one of their products run as an ad. It's one of our most successful paid ads. It always drives sales. We do put promotion behind this, but anytime there's any authentic reviews, we put this in. So to put that into some context for you guys as events freelancers, get testimonials from events that you've worked at before. Get some feedback. You'll be thinking about how to sell yourself at the moment, I'm sure. When somebody else is doing that for you, it's much easier for you to do that. It's so hard for you to go, I'm amazing at XYZ. When someone else comes in and says, this is what they did for me, this is what it meant, and this is what, and we would definitely book them again. Put that out there as much as you can. So LinkedIn is a definite focus for you guys, and Samantha and Kim were also championing this. You've got online networking, you can support your peers, colleagues, influencers, post videos now, as was said before, and blogs, and engage in what interests you. You don't need to fake it, but you may need to give yourself a little bit of a push to actually engage. And as freelancers, personal profiles over business pages in most cases work really, really well. So I can see some questions coming in. I wonder if I'll answer those questions at the end, we'll see. So this is something that's a little more out there and more speaks to you guys who are on the creative side. I know that there's a lot of designers. I was speaking to someone in the networking who was a event signage designer. I know that a lot of you will be thinking about kind of experiential events and at the moment, without being able to demonstrate that within the space physically, there are ways of demonstrating and projecting your creativity through social. So Instagram face filters, this alien example is just a favorite. I don't know if this speaks to any of you guys in terms of what you'd be able to create, but there's a piece of, there's a software called Spark AR, completely free to download, I'm not a designer. I downloaded it, and even I was able to create a basic face filter just with some templates that they have within the app. And you can create something on here that's maybe a branded face filter for an event that you're working at. Now that everything's going online, how do you help show that the event that you're going to be working at, managing, marketing, whichever it is, how do you show some differentiation? And this is a potential opportunity. And plus grows your Instagram following, as people need to follow you or the event in order to get access to the face filter. So that's a bit out there, but it's definitely one to consider if you're in that area. And again, it's a free platform. So how do you go about this? Everybody knows how to use socials to a certain extent, but how do you do this from an actual literal perspective, point of view? So we use these two scheduling platforms most often, Later and Hootsuite. Later's great for Instagram, and Hootsuite is great for tracking keywords and influencers. I'm just going to push through this to get to the questions in time. Instagram stories is great because you can have your 24 hours engaged audience, perfect time to speak to people. They're aware of your brand and product within that 24 hours, and you are front of mind. So it's the optimum time to talk to people. I'm going to skip past that video. So a case study from the Future Strategy Club about talking to new people. This, I think, is particularly of interest in relation to what Samantha and Kim were saying in the last session and how you guys want to make new leads and sales. You can have conversations with people on LinkedIn and Instagram that you've never met before. You want to, again, focus in on the types of people that you want to talk to. And two things that I would say is you want to have spark starters, conversation sparks to start that off. And usually I say things like, we have this person in common, or I'm interested in this thing that you've done. But then the second part is to have open-ended questions, open questions, which start with what, why, and how. So there's no way of them saying just a dead end yes or no to those questions. We did this with the Future Strategy Club, and we had a 60% response rate and a 15.79 conversion rate. That's from conversation to collected email. And you can do that as well. So feel free to drop me an email if you want to go into any more of that detail around how to have those specific questions. So I think we've got 10 minutes. I'm going to just look through some of these questions because there's quite a few more that came through than I was expecting, which is great. So as a freelancer, the top one, as a freelancer, we're not allowed to take photos of events we work on for our own self-promotion. We also can't take credit for the agency photographer's work. How can we promote ourselves? This is a great question. We could look at testimonials. Can you reshare what the client posts? Can you contact and get involved with the event's social media managers? We often do a lot of in-event activity, managing the Twitter and the socials for events. And we would be happy to work with people to notify them or tag them in advance to be able to share that content. So I would share the content that's already posted. I'd also look at any hashtags. Make sure you're following the hashtags for the events so that you can reshare any attendee posts. So then you're just feeding out all of this content, user-generated content, in fact, out through your own channel rather than attaching the photo as your own existing post, which is then very clear that this is just a share. And also then you're amplifying the event to your network. So I would take that literal strategy, and also I would try and sell into the event how this is really amplifying the promotion of the event as a whole. So I would sort of sell it both ways. I hope that helped. I hope that was an answer. So, how do you balance time from social media for mental health reasons versus promotion? I'm aware that a few of us have been silent for health reasons. Could this reflect poorly on us? I love this question so much because mental health and social media, it is it's a really important point. This is why I think it's important to have the clarity and the distinction and differentiation from your work to the social aspect. The clearer you are in your objectives as to why you're doing this, the clearer you are in your content pillars as to what you're going to post, and keeping your engagement to 10 minutes a day. Really try and keep separate. And the other thing I would say is concentrating on just the accounts that you're interested in. So if LinkedIn was your focus, concentrate just on LinkedIn. Try and turn the dial down on, oh, I should be doing Instagram, I should be doing Twitter, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Try and just focus in on one, because you can get a lot of benefit from LinkedIn. Again, it depends on where your ambitions are and how much you want that to, at what point you're at and what you want to grow from and how much you want to grow. But honestly, there is an entire world of business to be had from LinkedIn. So if that's where you want to focus, then that's what I would say. But I think it's a definite consideration, the mental health aspect. What's the time? 5 minutes, great. Do you recommend separate business and personal social media accounts or combining the two? Great question. They have got benefits. It depends on what channel we're talking about. So on LinkedIn, you definitely want to be promoting yourself by your personal profile. Having a business account is great if you're working with other, if you've got partners that you're working for, so that you can continue, so that you can have people that follow your business as well, and then you've got your staff and things and any additional people that work for you that can contribute. But yeah, personal profiles have better performance on LinkedIn. It's actually very difficult to answer that question on a broad scale, to be honest. I think both aspects work. Since I am promoting myself as a business, how professional do I need to make my posts? Depends on how you want to present yourself. Kim and Samantha were also talking about if you've going for a very corporate job, and if your clients are very corporate, high end, you do want to present that sort of aspect and that look and that status, I suppose. But if you are much more of a, I don't know, if you're working with lots of street food events, if it's much more cut fast and loose and free on the street, on the road, then it's more organic. It makes a lot of sense for your post to be a lot more off the cuff. So I think it just depends on who you're aiming at, who you're aiming your content at. Let's have a look. Oh, yes. Impossible to keep social on the go without pre-scheduling. Exactly. When you work long hours. Absolutely. Recommend a scheduling app? Yes. I'd recommend using Later or Hootsuite to schedule. Later's amazing. So great for visual. I love the way it looks. It's much easy. It's really easy to use. And you can schedule across all platforms. If you're looking at Twitter, then I would consider using TweetDeck or Hootsuite, because the listening is so much better. You can geolocate your hashtags. You can listen and engage with different people. So take this event, for example, you'd have all of your different speakers and your TweetDeck, and you can just engage with those within that. But if you're just talking about scheduling, Later is really, really nice. And I would 100% always recommend on scheduling if you're not into the live kind of aspect. And again, with the mental health aspect, I think scheduling is a massive, massive relief for kind of that kind of pressure that comes with social. Let's have a look. So we've got a couple of minutes left. Oh, yeah, interesting. Do you have any tips for how you grow a brand new social platform when starting out? This is a difficult question to answer. 0 followers, blank profile. Yeah, so few interactions. What I would say is, again, it depends on what channel you're looking at. The thing that you've got to do is it's like being at a party. When you get to the party, you don't just arrive and shout at everybody. You're like, hi guys, I'm here. I did this and I ate this. You want to go in and you want to listen and absorb and work out kind of who it is that you're talking to and consume what they're saying as well. And that is the case across all channels. So if we're looking at Twitter, find the right people to follow, or the right people for you to follow. Look at what they're talking about, what's interesting to you about what they're saying, and start to engage in that conversation. Get your content out, write your blogs, put your videos out, all of the stuff you know you're supposed to be doing. But then also look at the conversations that are happening. The follower strategy does still work to kind of give yourself that injection of follows. There, you've got to put a limit to that. And the final thing I'll say on that is turn the pressure dial down. It is hard to get followers at the moment. A lot of other organic ways of increasing followers that we do is running prize draws and competitions. For you guys, I would think about maybe having infographics or information. And if you're writing a blog that's got some tips and tricks, perhaps you can give that as a freebie as part of the thing to grow your following. You know, you can have it between a wall that once you get to a certain number of followers, you then give them this freebie. And the other great thing is to work together. All of you guys when you go back to these tables, just follow each other. Make sure you're liking each other's content. There's like 203 people in this room right now. You can work together and boost each other's socials and follow each other. So that's it. You can do it. I know you can. It's hard. Turn the pressure down.
Event freelancers, welcome to your new community, connecting you to your next project. Get connected. Sign up now. It's free.